Hello, this is episode 33 of the Tom, Stu, and You podcast with me, Peter Sarellas.
That
Nice,
was
Peter.
perfect.
That was so awkward. I didn't know what to do.
And that's the way we want our guests to feel when they come on the Tom Stewart podcast. Awkward. Perfect. Great start.
Yeah.
The intro is
Can only get better
always the
from
most
here.
awkward part. But everyone smashes it. I don't know why they find it so awkward.
You did great. So-
Cool. Well,
Yeah, definitely.
thanks. Now we can get to the unscripted stuff, which I feel like is going to be much better because I was really nervous about saying the wrong number.
Oh, yeah, no, 33. Nailed it. It's all right. I mean, we forget almost every week too, and we haven't even done that many yet, so
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
because I don't have enough
Yeah.
fingers to count on.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously, we had to put extra effort into how beautiful we look today because this is the first episode of the podcast that we're recording.
100%. I'd change out of a tank top for this.
Oh, I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, appreciate
Yeah, I
it, man.
brushed my hair.
Appreciate
You two don't have that problem though, but yeah.
No.
I mean, and obviously I'm looking off camera because my computer doesn't have a webcam, so I'm just not going to be looking at the camera at all this episode. So
That's okay. I'm also not looking at the camera, so that's fine.
wonderful, yeah. We're nailing it,
All good.
guys. Nailing
All
it.
good.
Well, Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Did you want to tell all the peeps who you are and how you know us?
Yeah, for sure. So, my name's Peter. I'm a videographer and video editor. I do a lot of sports events and commercial work here in Toronto, Canada. And I'm currently working for a digital marketing agency right now, but I also freelance. A lot of freelancing in I said sports events commercial. And I've recently started my newest venture, which is kind of a YouTube channel where I talk about like videography and video editing and do a lot of informative stuff to kind of create a nice community and interact with other people who are like-minded. And Stuart and I met through like a digital workshop series, I guess, with an agency that I don't know how you found them actually. I work with them, but I honestly don't know what your connection to them is.
Do you want to
Well,
know
sure.
what it is? It's
Yeah,
randomly
100%.
Jesse is friends with the agency, I guess. Yeah, all of the guys there. So we interviewed Jesse for episode
23 it was, yeah.
23.
23,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we
so
just
that's,
interviewed her mum last week. So yeah, I've met people again through that science fair connection somehow.
Okay, well, that's good, man. These networking events, you start meeting people. I guess that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But Stuart and I met through that, and I met Tom about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, man. And it's good to meet you.
Yeah.
So Peter, have you always been interested in videography then? Is that something that was been with you from an early age, or is it something you find later on?
Oh,
When did
no,
you
not
find
at
it?
all. I touched my first DSLR 2 years ago,
Oh,
and
yeah?
I pretty much I'm full time now, which is kind of
Nice.
nuts. But it all started
it's
when I was
wild.
traveling. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's so fast. I mean, I edited it for a year though before I started shooting anything. Because I just had like a GoPro. But basically, it started. I'll give you guys the story, I guess. If you watch the video I sent you, you know it. But basically, I was traveling through Australia, and I really hate writing, but I wanted a way to make a journal and kind of remember stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, so I got this little GoPro from my parents, and before I went off, so I started using it to just record stuff, and I bootlegged a shitty version of Premiere off of Pirate Bay.
Nice. Never told me that.
And maybe I shouldn't have said that on a recording.
Yeah,
or
maybe
whatever.
not, eh?
And I pay for it now.
Yeah, perfect.
And yeah, so I ended up making a random YouTube video, and it was kind of cool, and I liked it. So 40 YouTube videos later, I decided I wanted to switch up what I was doing. So I finished up business school and immediately got into media, and decided to pursue videography as a career. I just invested all my time into it. I was on the computer learning all day, every day, shooting anything I could, and that first YouTube video was February 2017, and now we're here in July 2020, and I have a full-time job and I'm freelancing and got some loyal clients, and yeah, man, it happened quick, but I love it.
How many YouTube videos have you done now then?
Oh, on the shitty channel from when I just started, it's still public. I leave it there to humble me. But on the shitty channel, I've probably got a good 45, and I've got a bunch on my channel right now that are private because they suck because they're old. But now I'm really branding my YouTube channel towards specifically sports media, because there's no one posting sports videos on YouTube, which is a niche that for some reason hasn't been tapped.
Yeah.
And digital marketing, because that's what I'm talking that's what I'm working right now. So it's really easy for me to talk about that. But I'm really niching everything towards that, and I just want to make sure that when you come to my channel, you know exactly what you're gonna get. It's not all over the place. I'm very much like a master of one, not really much of a jack of all trades.
Mm. But you've done like 70 videos in total now across the YouTube channels. Is that right?
I'm easily over 100 with all the private stuff,
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah.
across all
In
YouTube
2 years.
channels.
That's that's a
But
lot.
like,
That's
but,
good
but like
going.
most of them suck, and like some of them is like client work that I uploaded to like show my portfolio and all that
Hmm.
stuff, right? So
But
it's not
that's
like
okay,
every
right? That's
yeah,
okay. Like even the ones that suck is like part of the learning process. You know, you've got to be able to make mistakes and just make stuff that you think sucks or whatever, because that's all part of like finding stuff out in terms of ideas or in terms of new techniques and things like that.
oh yeah, absolutely, man. Like you can never expect to just pick something up and be good at it right away. Like it's always a
Mhm.
learning process. And like even now, like there's still so many people out there who are so much better than me. You know what I mean? But like every single video I make, my goal is just to get like a little bit better and to do one thing a little bit different to try to like push the limits a bit. And I feel like that's how you improve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And definitely making more and more videos is a way to do it. And that's probably where I have not done well. So I picked up a DSLR a long way before you did, but I guess I probably started video work in 2016 when I was traveling South America. So basically the same as you, except I didn't get a GoPro. I got a Lumix G7, which
Okay.
is such a sweet deal. It was like $800 or something for a little tiny mirrorless camera with two lenses. And I just like filmed everything in South America. Had no idea about storytelling. There's zero audio that was usable. But
Honestly, whatever, man. That's
yeah,
awesome.
jumped on
Uh,
Premiere Pro as well and had no idea what I was doing. So I get the struggle. It's a
I
lot.
also
Yeah.
love how we both started. Tom, I don't know how you started. Have you guys done
Um,
episodes about yourself?
A little
we,
bit.
we so we touched on
Okay.
it a little bit in
Okay.
the first one, but that's a good point. So I've always been interested in film and you know photos and things like that. My dad used to be a manager of Odeon cinemas, so
Hmm.
well like certain branches, and he would always take us to the movies, and he's a big movie fan, and so have I been for like all throughout my childhood. So I've always been interested in art and film and stuff like that. And so picking up a camera, I can't remember, it's quite a few years ago now. But I mainly focused on stills, and then video is something that I'm getting into more and more now, sort of thing,
Okay.
with the job. But yeah, man, it's good.
What I was
Enjoy
what I
it.
was gonna say, and I guess maybe Tom, you didn't start this way, but like I think it's cool that Stuart, we both started like traveling,
Hmm.
so there is very much like a purposeful use for like what we
Mm.
were doing, and then we kind of like stumbled onto it and continued from there. But like I think that it's just so nice to like honestly, man, traveling and making videos is like one of my favorite things. My ideal job is gonna would involve me traveling like all over the place
I mean,
and like
not
to
ideal
do
now, is
videos.
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Not at
yeah,
the
and
moment.
everything I say is gonna be contextualized to a post or pre-COVID world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right now I'm basically just chilling at home and like I'll make the commute to work sometimes and like it's very routine. Don't see a lot of people, no contact, all that
Hmm.
all that stuff.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
obviously, watching your YouTube and Instagram videos taking off, you have been very productive during this whole lockdown period and very
Yeah,
creative.
yeah. Oh, like you have to get creative to like kind of make it work. Um, I guess it started the whole thing with the quarantine. I didn't know what to do, so I just started making like product videos in my bedroom. And like you guys have probably seen some of the BTS on my Instagram. It's just like
Mhm.
the funniest low budget stuff. It's like I made a commercial for $10.
Yeah.
That's great though. I love that stuff. I love all that you know DIY do it yourself filmmaking at home. It's great to see. It's great to see the product that you make, which looks very professional. But it's great to be able to like be behind the camera and see you doing it. I think it's great. Like it's really good. It's like what David Sandberg did. Um, he makes like things called the shitty dolly and things like that to do dolly zooms, and it's
Yeah,
made of
yeah,
like
yeah.
a plank of wood and skateboard wheels and stuff like that. It's awesome to see that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Or like I'll definitely like I have a rolly office chair, so I'll definitely hop in the office chair and push myself forward every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like my zoom in shot.
So, how different that is making videos at home compared to making videos for clients?
You'd be surprised, not that different.
Yeah.
Cause like if I'm making stuff for a client, like I'll like when they have a bigger budget, then I will go the more professional route, obviously, and I want to make something that matches a client's expectations always. But if a client has a low budget and I need to like kind of finesse something or do it in a way where I can get a result, like a good result for cheap,
Hmm.
then like I have no problem like just doing whatever I need to do to get the shot. You know what I mean? I'm not
Mm.
hell bent on like, oh, I need to have this light and I need to have like a full studio rented out. like, no, we can do it wherever. Just like give me an environment with some controlled lighting, and like a little bit of stuff to play with, and we can get creative and figure something out. So you'd be surprised, man. A lot of DIY stuff.
Yeah, well, isn't there some famous quote along the lines of creativity? You become more you become more creative through your limitations.
Yeah,
So it's almost
definitely.
like without
Yeah.
those limitations, you almost like become lazy because you're not pushed to actually be more creative and try to figure out something to fix the
Yeah.
problem that you're faced with.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like I totally agree with that, and I'm not saying I like getting low budget jobs,
But so that's my specialty, I think.
but like when they come, if it's a project that I'm genuinely interested in, or I feel like it could like help my portfolio, or I like the client and I want to do good for them, then
Mhm.
I'll take it. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah, it's all about removing your ego, right? So if you
Mm.
wanted to make a whole lot of money, but you didn't really have a passion for something, like I feel like that's a lot of people get into wedding videography and photography without having a passion for it. They don't really have, a
Oh
keen interest
man,
for it, but they know it pays well, and so that's where they start, right?
we've
Yeah.
all touched weddings. Everyone's done a wedding here,
Heck
I
no,
guarantee it.
I've not done one.
You've never done a wedding?
I'm staying away
Come
from
on,
that.
my first paid gig was a wedding, and I feel like everyone's first paid gig was a wedding.
I did my brother's, but that was fine. Like I was involved as well, but I took my camera and got some shots, which
Hmm.
were all right.
Really?
Yeah, they
'Cause,
got
like,
worse throughout the night, as you get more and more drunk. But
you
whatever.
see that type of wedding where I'm allowed to drink, that I could do.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I
the
still,
best type.
I still do weddings. I don't like market myself as a wedding videographer, and I'm definitely not. But
Mm.
like, I can shoot whatever. So like, I'll
Yeah,
get subcontracted by wedding companies, and then I just show up and shoot the footage, and they deal with it. But like, the pay's good, so I'll just like tough it out for a day and get it
hmm
done.
Yeah, yeah. Do
yeah.
those
I don't
type
know.
of jobs not make you super nervous? Like
Oh, you know
they're the
what?
most nerve-wracking jobs, I think.
You know what? At first they did, but like now I feel like I'm just so good with it. Like I'm done it
Yeah,
enough times it doesn't matter.
yeah.
I've done like solo photography for weddings. I'm like the only one there, so
Mm.
it's like if I miss the first kiss, like I'm kind of screwed. But
Yeah,
like I
Yeah,
know I haven't missed it.
perfect. Yeah,
yeah.
and like I
That's
think a
it.
lot of people
Get it
too,
down.
they like work themselves up, right? Where if you miss the first kiss, just get them to do it again. Like is like
Yeah,
if that's the worst possible thing that you could possibly have happen to you on the day, like it's not really a big deal.
yeah. No, it's not. The pro tip though, if you're shooting weddings, for anyone listening, if you're trying to get into shooting weddings,
Yeah, here we
you
go.
talk to the guy. I don't remember what the name of the person who runs the ceremony is. The minister, is that right? The
Yeah, I
person
think
who's like,
depending on
Yeah,
the wedding, yeah,
whoever
okay,
the
so
the
master of
celebrant.
ceremonies is.
yeah,
Yeah,
whoever the
Yeah,
master of ceremonies is, you
yeah.
talk to them beforehand, and you just tell him to like pause for a second before he says you may kiss the bride, and then on the
mm,
pause you can get ready, and he looks at you and you look at him, and it's like okay, go time, and then he says it, and then you know it's coming. So you just need
oh,
Yeah, that's Peter's top tip number one,
to.
yeah,
right
that's I
there.
like
That's
that.
good. That's
So
good.
yeah,
That.
talk to people beforehand. The people who are in charge and make stuff go. You want to be on their good side,
Mm.
Yeah,
and that's for everything, man. Every event. Not that you're shooting events anytime soon, but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So, have
Thanks for
you
that
ever
reminder.
had?
No.
So, have you ever had any kind of jobs or events that you've covered where you've been like, I don't know if I can do that, or you've had any doubts creeping?
oh, I've definitely had doubts for events before. Like my
Mm.
first ever concert that I shot was Tory Lanez, which is
Mm.
like a pretty big act for like someone
Mm.
who's never shot a concert before in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
wow.
like going into that, I was working for a newspaper at the time, and like the event was associated with a group that our newspaper covers, so that's how I got in. But
Mm.
I had never done that before, and I didn't really know what to do. And looking back on it, there were so many mistakes that I made, and I was so unsure if I'd even get enough footage to like make it usable.
Mm.
But like the project didn't turn out that bad, and like it was kind of, it was kind of cool. I got like just enough to get me by, and I had to denoise a lot of shots, but
Mhm.
That's okay.
I pulled it off. So I was very unsure of myself going into that new environment, and but it got done. And every new environment I go into, there's always questions, but you just need to roll with the punches. I'm sure you guys can relate to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I
Definitely.
think every sort of creative has that one job where they don't feel confident at all in either their ability to capture the things that the image they can see in their head, um,
Hmm.
or like I had a video job not even that long ago, only a couple of months ago, just before COVID happened, where I'd done all of the filming for the job, and I got home that night, and I was just like, I don't think I've done anywhere good enough for this job right now. And
Oh
it was the
no.
first time I guess that it had ever happened, and I just like hadn't felt comfortable in any of the clips that I thought I'd captured. Like I just felt uncomfortable the whole time. I just hadn't really like relaxed into it, and I I put off that job for like weeks, just not wanting to get into the editing of it, just because I just didn't think I was gonna be able to pull it off. And then like the
Mm.
deadline obviously was coming up, literally days away, and I jumped on in, and thankfully a lot of the shots that I thought were absolutely horrible, I could actually pull out some snippets.
Mm.
Um,
Nice one.
but like I thought the audio was going to be all messed up, but I could like finesse it, so it was fine. But and again, it came down to becoming more creative and not sticking to what I thought I was going to be able to make going into it, versus what I realistically could once I got there. Because the client made it all sound like everything was going to be incredible. I was going to rock up and it was going to, have everything set up for me. The audio was going to be ready for me to go. But I got there and like I had to like jerry rig together a little like audio recording to like leave at the microphone because I couldn't hook in directly to the soundboard despite the client telling me I could, so yeah, I just had to make a very
Yeah.
different video to what I thought, but it turned out great and the client loved it. So I
That's
would be
that's awesome.
hesitant to go into an event that confident again, I think.
Yeah, it's a scary feeling to go into something and think that you're good, and then you
Hmm.
come out of it and you know that you don't have what you need. Like I always say, overshoot, but like do not undershoot because
Yeah,
overshooting
Mm.
is more work, and if you undershoot, like you're so screwed.
Yeah.
But like, that's
True.
the worst feeling. So I'm happy you pulled that out because that would give me so much stress.
that's top tip number 2 for Peter. Yeah.
I was gonna
Don't
Do
drop
shoot.
you. I'm
not
gonna drop in
undershoot.
little
Don't undershoot.
nuggets all through here. We can
Definitely.
talk about Instagram too later. I'll drop a couple nuggets.
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely. I can't wait for that.
So before you started all this and got onto your, videography and you found that passion, what was your trajectory? What kind of way were you going? What
So
kind
like
of career were you heading towards?
my whole family was like was always pushed to, like go work in finance, work for the bank. Like
Okay.
a lot of members of my family work for a bank, and
Yeah.
I graduated high school with like all 90s and stuff, and like I got a scholarship and like all this like academic stuff.
Hmm.
And I was at a small school in Quebec called Bishop's University. Don't
Mm.
recommend, by the way. I can't possibly endorse them, so I need to preface that every
I was gonna
time.
say I might have to put that on
Okay.
Twitter. I think that might have to be one of our quotes for the episode.
um, so I was doing a BBA out there in finance and economics. Now I was projected to graduate, get my business degree, and
Mm.
then I would do a master's or get my CFA and go work for a bank. But
Yeah.
luckily in that third year, I went on exchange and I found videography, and I was
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
oh, peace.
Yeah.
And I was straight out of there because man, I would have been so bad for that. Oh,
Mm.
like the analytical part and the doing the job is fine,
Yeah.
but like the professional part and like not the saying that I'm not a professional as a videographer, but there's a different standard of what professional is in the corporate field versus in a creative field, and
Mm.
that corporate standard of professional is not something I could have dealt with on a day to day basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I
Definitely. And
understand, man.
yeah. Yeah. Me too. And the sitting at a desk for like 10 hours a day or whatever wouldn't have done it.
Just because.
Oh, I still
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
doing
different
something
though
that you
when it's
enjoy.
yeah, it's different though when it's your work, right? Like yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like
And
this weekend,
I think the
oh,
big
God.
thing for me, the big difference between like the professional life and the creative life is that in a professional life you just have to be at the desk for that certain amount of time, regardless of how much work you're getting done. If you if you're super productive and you get more work done, you just end up getting allocated someone else's work that hasn't been as productive. But it's all about just bums on seats, hours in the on the clock. Whereas in the
Mm,
creative field, you work as hard and as long as you almost need to, not because you have to.
yeah, I agree to an extent, and it all depends on kind of where you're working. Like when I freelance, 100%, that's exactly what it is. You put in the time and you get it done, and there's no hours. But like when I'm working for like the agent for like my agency that I'm with right now,
Hmm.
like a lot of that stuff is like there's never ending work. Like whenever like we're done something, there's always more content we can do. We can always push out some more internal content to help us rank higher in SEO. So
Mm.
like as much as I can get through projects quick, like there's always another project I could take on, and I always want to be taking on that work, right? So I'll go in for like my 8 hours or whatever it is, and I can bang out a project, but I'm not gonna chill for an hour and do nothing. I'm gonna like take the initiative to go and like film a YouTube video for the company that we can start pushing out, or brainstorm some ideas for the next project, right? So like,
Mhm.
sometimes you can still have that thing where you're just clocking in, clocking out, but it makes such a difference when you're doing something that you actually enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, absolutely. So giving up, I mean, deciding not to pursue a master's, following on from your business degree, must have been somewhat of a tough decision to make when, your whole life had been put on this trajectory, I guess.
Man,
How did that decision come about? Like,
that
what was your
decision
biggest
was that
concerns? How did
decision
you
was so easy.
really?
That was
Really?
such an easy decision. I already knew in my head before I even found videography that I wasn't doing a master's.
Okay, fair.
So like,
How did your decision to leave that kind of behind and not pursue that kind of career go down with like friends and family who'd been supporting you in what you were doing?
okay, this is kind of a funny story. So
Excellent.
I was I was home maybe 2 months after I got back from my exchange in Australia and all that filming stuff.
Hmm.
And I was sitting with in my living room with my mom during winter break,
Yeah.
and she was like, we were just talking about like ways that I could continue being involved in the creative space and continue making videos. And she was like, "Oh, why don't you just like take a night class that involves like editing or video or something?" It was like, so obviously I took that one step too far and started looking up like full-time programs.
Yeah, yeah,
And I found one at George Brown College that I liked, and I was like, "Hey, like, why don't I do this?" And she was like, and like, I don't know, they didn't say no. They weren't like, it wasn't an enthusiastic yes, but it definitely wasn't a no. So I
Hmm.
just went. So I just like I finished my degree. I got it to like make them happy, but like
yeah.
I was enrolled in that program before I was graduated.
All right, so yeah, you definitely knew
Gotcha.
what you were doing.
Yeah, so like I finished and I was out, and like they couldn't say anything because I finished. And like if I
Yeah,
want to go back to that, it's always there, but I'm not going back.
it's a good backup, right? That's what I like to call my accounting degree. Yeah, it's a good backup.
A
It
good
just took
backup.
me
Yeah.
3 years of working as an accountant before I finally made the same decision you had made before you even finished. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
you're just
hey
always
man,
that
three
step
three
ahead,
years
mate.
as an accountant, you got some savings under you now, so that's always good.
I should.
Stu?
It's expensive moving to a new country and becoming a
Yeah,
permanent resident, and
yeah,
it's an
true,
expensive
true.
place to live out here. There's too much fun to be had and too many toys to buy.
That's always true in this game, isn't it? In
Yeah,
videography
especially in
and
creative field, right?
photography.
Like
Oh my
how
god.
much camera gear and lighting
Yeah.
gear and audio gear and
Do
stuff
you
do you have
have?
now? Yeah.
Within an arm's reach of me, I probably have like $10,000 to $15,000 worth.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's which is kind of nuts now that I'm saying it out loud.
It's
Yeah.
wild, right? No, yeah. I mean, yeah. And the thing that annoys me the most is as a somewhat new permanent resident to Canada, I was trying to get a bank loan so that I could buy a vehicle. But they only look at what amount of money you have in your bank account or in a house or a car to determine your value. And I was like, but I have all of this expensive camera and computer gear. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't count. I'm like, but what? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't add to your personal value at all. And I was like, well, so I can't afford a car because I have bought a new camera and built a new computer. And then she's like, yeah, pretty much. And I'm like, well, all
Well,
right, guess
shit.
it's time to find a new client.
It's like, well, fuck.
Yeah, yeah. But my Instagram
But
looks fire, so worth it,
Yo, your
right?
Can we
so
talk
worth
about
it.
your Instagram for a second? The
Sure.
dedication to making your feed like the most cohesive thing ever. Like, I'm sure everyone on this podcast who like listens has gone and seen your Instagram already, but like, if you haven't, like, guys, you're missing out.
Pretty
Thank you,
good.
my man.
It's
Yeah, I
so
mean,
satisfying.
give me like 2 more days to start posting again because it's been about a week and a half. But yes, I am trying to put in some more effort to making it all fit together. It's just different. It's
Mm.
like we've talked before about our love-hate relationship with Instagram on the podcast, and
Mm.
a lot of it stems from the fact that like everyone's Instagram just sort of looks exactly the same now. Everyone's editing their
Very
photos the
true.
exact same way. There's now YouTube tutorials to edit your photos to look like a certain Instagrammer. There's always some like hot chick in front of a mountain for some reason out here, and even if it's a
Yeah.
terrible photo, the fact that she's in it makes it a million liked photo. Um, so
The joke that
yeah,
I always make with my friends is at least you didn't post a picture of a white girl with big frame glasses that are see-through in front of a neon light.
yeah. Oh no, with fairy lights that get
Yeah.
that get soft towards the camera. Yeah,
So every time that someone posts a picture, like, oh, I don't know if this picture's good, I'm like, it's not a white girl with big glasses in front of a neon sign, so you're good.
Mm. Yeah, man.
Which is basically just poking fun at all. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but just poking fun at like the Instagram stereotypes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them for sure.
Yeah, and those guys who
So
make YouTube videos, damn, I hate them.
yeah, I know those goddamn YouTube influencers. Come on.
Ew, gross.
So we did talk about, as Stu alluded to there, we did talk about, constantly being connected with social media and stuff like that. Do you find that you compare your work to others and sometimes get down about it, or are you pretty confident about yourself and it's not an issue kind of thing?
Man, that's a great question, and like I would love to sit here and say that I don't compare myself,
Yeah.
but
We all would.
everyone compares themselves to an extent, even if you think
For
that
sure.
you don't, like you do, and that can be a positive thing or a negative thing because you can look at other people's work and draw inspiration from it and use that to make you better.
Mm-hmm.
But you just need to try to keep that positive mindset and like kind of realize that your work is good.
Mm.
Well, maybe it's not, but as long as
Yeah,
you
But
he
it
has
will
a look
be
at my
good one
YouTube
day.
but
channel.
but if you keep on putting the work in and you are putting the work in, then if you're not good right now, you will get good. And if you've been putting the work in, then like you're gonna be good to an extent. So like I don't know, it's hard. Like you guys know this, but like it's hard to only focus on yourself. But you need to make sure that you're just focusing on making your work better. And if you're gonna look at other people's work, just do it in a positive light.
Yeah, nice. Do you think,
That's a good tip.
just going on from that as well, do you think that because, as we said, there's so many photographers and videographers out there nowadays, and even nowadays with technology, like iPhones are getting better at taking photos, and all these smartphones are getting pretty good at taking photos. Do you think that people have less respect for photography and videography? Is that something that you found in your experience, or do you think that there's still a solid respect for this kind of work out there?
I think there's a solid respect for it still, but
Mm-hmm.
like anything, I think that it's a matter of proving yourself first. Like
Yeah.
in any field, no one's gonna respect you until you can show that you're competent.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So to be able to like produce work for someone and show it, that gets you your respect. But just saying that you are something,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're saying that you're something that automatically has a bunch of qualifications in front of it, like a doctor, where
Yeah.
like you don't get there unless you can show that you're good. Then like if you say you're a videographer, that doesn't mean shit. But like if you can show that you're actually good, and then you say you're a videographer, and you can speak to that, I think that garners respect. And from my experience, it has.
Yeah, I think it's definitely devalued parts of the industry. I think for sure in that there's almost it's almost like a crowded space at the bottom for who can charge the least amount of money to provide a service. But I think if you can rise above that sort of minimum benchmark into the middle ground, I guess, of the creative field, you can definitely start to make a living, I guess, as a freelancer still, despite the fact that there are a whole bunch of Instagram influencers out there, or people willing to just shoot their brother's wedding and get drunk or something, at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's like a whole nother step to get into the upper echelons of the creative field where you can charge tens of thousands of dollars. Like I don't think there's as many jobs in that level as there used to be, but certainly I think the value of Instagram influencers has taken a hit in the last couple of months, especially with the whole Kylie Jenner billionaire business influencer debacle that happened a few months ago, and I guess just Instagram was a beast on its own, where having 10,000 followers on Instagram doesn't really mean as much as it used to a year or two ago.
Yeah, like I kind of agree with you on that, and I think the value of influencer marketing and influencers on Instagram, like I see value in it.
Hmm.
I'm a little bit biased, and I'll preface that right now because I do work in influencer marketing right now. But like I've like as someone who is in that industry currently, like as my full time gig, I see that the results that can come from it,
Yeah.
and I totally know what you're saying. Where now it's more common to have a large number of followers on Instagram, and some people don't necessarily get it through the most organic of means,
Yeah.
which is obviously frowned upon. And in the long run, I don't think there's a place for that. But if you have a genuine audience and they're engaged and they're connected with the things that you do and the things that you do are things that you believe in, then I think there's always going to be a value in that for companies or anyone else who may want to market for you or for you to push whatever you want to push.
Yeah, I think the big change that's happened recently, from what I can see in the industry, not that I'm specifically in it like you are, but whereas before, if you just had a big following, you could almost be guaranteed to get paid for your influence, whatever. But I think now and it goes back again to why you just need to step above the crowded space at the bottom of the creative field, is that there's so much more to making money as a professional in this sort of creative field than just having a following or being able to take a photo. It's things like, do you have the business acumen to be able to create proposals, find clients, invoice them properly? Can you deliver on time? Can you perform to a deadline? Can you, meet their needs? Um,
Absolutely.
it's all those side of the work, I think, that is becoming way more important. It was always important, but that's becoming way more important than just purely having a big Instagram influence, or purely having an A7 III and being able to crush the blacks on an Instagram post.
Hey, I love crushing the black on
Yeah,
the
so do
A7.
I.
But no, but in all honesty, you're totally right. And I'll joke with people to say my BBA was a waste, and maybe you will joke about your former life as an accountant. But
I don't.
realistically, that stuff gives us an edge, and I feel like it differentiates myself, and it probably differentiates you as well as a creative. Because I can sit there with a client who runs a small business and needs to worry about making their rent next month, and I can have that conversation with them from like business to business, and say things in a way that they understand, not to speak like creative mumbo jumbo and talk about like social media and stuff, because they might not care about their social media.
Yeah.
They might be pushing through a different platform, or they might be trying to put something on a local TV station, and so they can market that way. And I feel like this business background it allows you to be more empathetic to the business owners who you work with. So I'm really happy that I got a business degree, even if I'm not working specifically in a business related role right now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of transferable skills that have come out of doing that. Eh? That's good. What do you think the pros and cons are of the work you do?
Oh man, the pros are for sure that like I never know what's coming
Yeah.
ever, like, in a given day.
And that's
Like
a pro.
that's a pro for
Yeah.
sure.
The variety.
Yeah.
I don't get bored. Like I don't just go to my desk like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and do
Yeah.
the same work I did yesterday. Like
Yeah.
no, we're always pitching new ideas. We're always getting new clients on. I'm always taking on like new freelance jobs. I can go to an event for the same client, but something totally different can happen, and like it's something I've never seen before, and it helps me build my skills. So like I'm learning while I'm working all the time, even if I'm getting paid, because there's just all that variety, and I love that. Maybe it's not for some people, but yeah, I think it's great. And this is a pro and a con. I spend a lot of time sitting at my desk editing. The pro is that it's in my house. There's no commute, and I can just kind of like chill, and like I can blast a podcast and like just
Like
do,
the Tom Stu New podcast, obviously your favorite. Yeah.
that's actually the only podcast I listen to.
Yes. Write that one down. Yeah.
So I can listen to Tom Stu New podcast and never anything else while I do my work.
Perfect.
But at the same time, I am sitting at my desk for like 10 hours, so I need to find a way to like stay active and stuff. So pro and con there.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, the side note to that is lifting heavy camera gear, especially gimbals and a big camera on it. That keeps you fit when you're actually doing the filming, because that stuff gets heavy quick.
It does. It does.
Oh man, I'm gonna call that a con.
Yeah,
Because
15 grams worth of camera gear. That's heavy.
I've had times where I've been on a Ronin for like 4 days, not like a big Ronin, but like a Ronin S,
Yeah.
like for 4 days straight, and then after it, my back is just
Your
like
back's in half, yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah,
I
but
can't even stand up properly.
biceps are pumped.
Oh yeah, I look at my arms and I'm like worth it.
Yeah.
But I'm hunched over. So
Yeah, but I'm hunched over. Yeah.
But what would you guys say? I'm just gonna bounce like we're all in the same field here, more or less. So like, I don't know, what are some cons for you guys? Because we all work in slightly different disciplines.
I think a pro or a con could be interactions with clients, and it depends on the client sometimes. I always joke about my specialty being unorganized clients.
yeah.
Cheap clients.
So I was going to say that.
And it's just because I think I attract clients that like someone who is somewhat laid back, because a lot of creators, yeah, as you said earlier, like they almost can't understand. They can't find that common ground to actually make someone feel comfortable. So if you can, be open, a bit more relaxed, like professionalism, yeah, it's very different in a corporate world as it is to, dealing with a restaurant owner, like a local restaurant owner, or like a small sporting organization. All these people need the same amount of work, but the guys that run it, they're not specialists in videos or photos or social media. So, you just almost need to understand what they want and then just do what you think is best for them, and then explain
Exa-
yourself later. But that could be a pro or a con depending on the client.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%. And like
yeah,
that's
definitely.
just like that's a pro for clients who you get along well with, and a con for
Hmm.
clients who you don't really see eye to eye with.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, a con for me is like a terrible brief, which
Hmm.
I just hate. Like, you know, when they're like, just make a video. Like, what does that mean? Like a little bit more communication is what I like, and then obviously just carrying around heavy equipment sucks for long
Yeah,
periods of time. Especially like if you're doing an event and you're like double slinging cameras and stuff like that. That gets heavy quick.
Yeah.
yeah,
For
100%.
sure.
I bring a 31-liter bag to work every day to just so
Wow.
yeah, I feel you. It's
Yeah,
a pain.
it is. It is
Do you also
indeed.
do you find that the clients that are just like, oh, just like make a video, we don't care, are always the clients that will have the most criticism when you have a published video?
Oh,
They're always the
I,
ones that'll
I
come
never
back.
let a client. If someone just says make a video, I will never take that project without getting more detail. My follow up is always
Exactly.
like I give them like specific questions, like what is your objective? What's your marketing objective? Like
Hmm.
where do people normally find you? What social platforms do you like to tackle? And like what length are you looking to have it? Like what are some key points of your business you prefer to highlight? Like stuff like that. I'll go over and I'll obviously tailor the question specifically for a client based on what I can see their goals are or what field they're in.
Hmm.
But I always like want to get those follow up questions. I want to get as much detail and as much information as possible out of them before I say yes or no to a project.
Yeah.
Because like that allows you to quote more accurately, so you
Hmm.
Hmm.
can make sure that you're not outworking your budget, and you can make sure that you're doing something that's fair for the client, and then
Yeah.
you can also provide them a better product, right? So I always want to get as much information as possible. If someone just says make me a video, like, and they won't give me more information, like that's an easy no.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a
Do
hot
you,
tip though. Also, make sure you to put in the contract or the proposal before you sign, um, two free changes or whatever, and then charge them for any
mm,
additional changes. Because I'm sure we've all had the clients like, I think my worst one is draft 9 of a 2 minute video.
Oh my
Um,
god.
yeah.
have made sure that clause is in all future contracts since that date.
Yeah.
We could have a
Definitely.
whole podcast episode just about contract, like the art of contracts and like negotiating the deal. Like, there's
Mm,
so many things that it's important to like put in a contract and like proposal to a client. Like,
mm,
and you gotta make some mistakes along the way if you're learning.
Of course, because otherwise you don't know what's important, right? It's like
Yeah.
I didn't do contract law at university, so I just downloaded a sample contract from the web, and it it doesn't change that much from client to client, but there are certain clients that you definitely have to put in
Mhm.
certain clauses for.
hmm.
Well, one more
Yeah.
universal clause for anyone listening who is like, ooh, contracts. Tell me more. You always want to retain the right to display your work anywhere where you make your services available, anywhere where you market yourself.
Yeah.
That clause is always in there. Even if
Yeah.
you're working for free and you're doing like your first job ever, the right
Hmm.
to like what's the word I look for? Like, for eternity, like forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, to like to always
in
have the right.
perpetuity or something. In
Yes,
perpetuity, I think
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
contract says, yeah,
Yes, the right in perpetuity have you like that
to
piece
display
of
your
work
work. Yeah,
To
displayed
display it.
and like you can show it anywhere where you show your portfolio. Like that's such a must, man. I will do stuff for free for really big clients if I think that's the only way I can get in the door,
Mm.
but I will not do anything if I don't have that in the contract.
if you can't show your piece of work in your portfolio and a client fights you on it, don't take them on as a client because that is the biggest red flag that you could possibly ask for. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah,
for someone in our sort of level, I guess if you're like the upper echelons of the creative industry, I'm sure there's lots of jobs that don't let you show it in the portfolio because of certain reasons. But for 99.99% of the creative population, definitely make sure it's a portfolio piece.
yeah. Like I've
Mm.
definitely filmed some jobs that have like higher profile celebrities in the video,
Mm-hmm.
and like because like they just show up to the events and stuff, and like you're filming it, and then it's like, oh, this video can't go out because this celebrity looks this certain way and it doesn't align with their branding objectives and blah blah blah. And it's like,
Mm.
okay, I get that, but those jobs are the ones where I'm charging a premium, because like it costs, like I'm definitely want more money if I'm not gonna have the right to use this job to make money, so I can kind of make up for the fact that I'm not gonna be able to market it.
Yeah, that you can't advertise yourself with it, like your
Exactly.
services. Yeah, yeah, sure. Do you research your clients much before you go into negotiations with them to see what they want?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm
Yeah.
always like, whenever a company emails me, like
Mm.
the first thing I'll do before I even respond to their email is like get on Google, get on socials, and do a full search of them,
Mm.
like just to see like what they're about, and because I want to make sure that I respond to things that are relevant to them specifically. If I can
Mhm.
identify some of their needs without even telling, rather than even telling me, and then get back to them on those needs. That makes me look like I'm way ahead of the ball, right? And I think that separates me.
Yeah, way more professional, right?
100%.
Yeah, it's like a
I'm
first
sure,
date.
I'm sure you guys do the same. Yeah,
Yeah, first
let's
dates
not
do the
talk
same
about.
thing, but you don't tell them. But it just helps you know what questions to ask to get the information you're wanting.
I don't go as detailed for dating as I do with clients. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. You're also not making as much money, I hope, from your dating as you are your client work. So
Making money, I wish.
yeah.
Yeah, so how do you go about finding your videography work? Do you approach people, or is it through word of mouth, referrals, and all that kind of stuff?
It's mostly referrals right now.
Yeah.
And I was having this chat the other day with someone, but like I think it's great to like if you need to stir up some work, be cold calling and finding clients that you aspire to work with and reaching out to them.
Hmm.
And when you do so, you want to include samples of your work. But when you do that, you just have to understand that you're kind of losing the balance of power. You're giving that to them because you're showing the need to work. So you can't ever reach out to someone and then expect to get a ton of money and like a really high paying job because like you're establishing need, they're not the one who's showing need. And like if you're gonna reach out to a client you really want to work with, like if you like let's say I shoot sports, right? And a lot of the stuff I do is basketball at a university or high school level, and I found a good niche at that grassroots level. But say I wanted to get into shooting like the NBA, I might hit up the Raptors or like Raptors 905, their G League team, and volunteer to shoot for free. And that's fine. I don't expect any money. I'm putting myself in the position of need, but I can show a body of work that shows I'm capable of that. But the jobs where you make the money are like the referrals, where someone who you worked with goes and tells someone else, hey, Peter, he did this video for me and he's awesome. You should totally go to him for your video. And then they come to you and they want your service. Then that's the point where you can say, my price is this. And you can establish your rate and you can actually get paid. Because like you've kind of been validated already by someone else who you worked with. Or at least that's how I feel.
So, where do you start with setting a value to your work? Because I assume it's probably changed over the last 2 years.
Oh, 100%. I would have done something like, oh man, my first wedding, I did a full day of video coverage. And then I also ended up editing a 1 minute video because the agency kind of effed off on them and the couple got screwed over and I felt bad.
Mm.
So I did a full day of coverage and a 1 minute video for like $300, which is like slave labor.
Whoa,
That's not much for a wedding. Yeah.
no. So,
Not
No,
at all.
how much work was that? 20 hours probably? Like two
Yeah,
full
but
days?
yeah, I'd say about
Like
that.
a full day of actually filming, and then probably a day of editing if it's one of your first videos too.
Yeah, because that was early on. So that was easily below minimum wage.
Easily, yeah.
Easily, yeah. With the
And
pressure
like,
as well.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot.
nowadays, like, look, my rates vary client to client because, like I was talking about before, you always want to like be accommodating to people's needs, and I will charge less for clients with causes that I believe in if the money isn't there,
Yeah.
and still take on that work if I have the time.
Mm.
But like, usually strive to pay myself no less than $40 an hour ever freelancing.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that's like outrageous when they just hear $40 per hour, right? But I guess what you have to also think about is that within that $40 an hour, you're paying business expenses, taxes. You're not getting taxed before it's coming to your bank account,
Mhm.
right? Also, you're wanting to pay off your 15 grand's worth of camera gear at some point through all of the jobs that you're doing. So there is a lot of expenses involved, I guess, in freelance and in creative work that customers very rarely think about when they see a quote.
Yeah, it's not like $40 an hour I'm making freelance video is the same as making $40 an hour working at Burger King.
Yeah,
Because like
very
I'm dealing with all of my own business expenses, as you guys know,
different.
and like the subscription services and depreciation on equipment
And
and
new equipment. Yeah.
yeah, new equipment, storage space online, all these different things that need to be accounted for.
Mm.
And those all take out of your rate. And even 40 is pretty low when you consider all of that. So like that's kind of the lowest I'll go, but it usually ends up higher. And actually, one thing that I'd like to hear from you guys about actually, how do you guys structure your invoices when you're like invoicing clients? Because I usually do line items where it's like pre-production and then it's like DP with equipment, on-set assistant, like equipment rentals, post production assembly, post production coloring, and like I'll actually show every single like line item with the cost, so that when that quote at the end is like $5,000 or whatever it is, they don't get blown away by the price. They're like, oh, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. This all makes sense. So like, well, how do you guys approach that?
That's one for you, Stu. Well, that sounds like a good way of doing it.
It does sound like a great way of doing it. I guess most of my clients, I'm not getting as complicated in the production, I guess, as having to have assistance and equipment rental, as it were. I generally provide quotes on a day-to-day basis. So I say, if I film you for a full day, I basically always double that for the actual like end result. So if I'm filming for a full day and I'm making a video for, a 5-minute video or whatever, it's probably going to take me a full day to edit, plus export, plus delivery. So I sort of generally break mine down in day rates and provide, like when I provide my proposal, provide a quote, I generally charge, say I'm charging $800 for a day or whatever. I don't actually know that's what I charge. Obviously, it depends on the client, as you say, but
much more, much more.
much more, hopefully, than that. So that's the way I've sort of broken it down. I don't like to break it down into coloring, into exact like steps, I guess, that I go through. But I definitely have like a pre-production where it's talking to the client. I have that broken down, and then I have the actual production of it, and then I have editing broken down, and then I always add an equipment rental rate, even if I'm using my own gear.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
You have to put in an equipment rental rate, even if you're not renting equipment, to pay back your equipment over time. Obviously, it's not the exact same as what it would cost if I was to actually rent the gear, but it's just an additional $50, $100 or something, depending on the length of the project that I throw in at the end. And I also find if you do that little step as well, if the client comes back and says, "Oh, it's a bit too expensive," I can say, "Well, what about if I get rid of the equipment rental?" And it's like an easy line item that I can get rid of that doesn't really cost me anything. Whereas if I'm cutting half my production rate, for example, then all of a sudden I've halved the amount of money that I'm actually making of something that I haven't already spent money on.
Yeah, fair enough. See, something that a lot of creatives do, I feel, is they'll shoot out a price and the client will say, no, I can't do that. And they'll immediately cut their rate with like no justification. And I hate that because you can't just walk into like Best Buy and like decide you're gonna buy a pair of headphones. They're like $200. Like, oh, I can do 100, and they're like, fine, 150. Like that never happens.
Yeah.
So, like if you're gonna lower your rate, that needs to be kind of in accordance. Like it's okay to do it sometimes, but it needs to be in accordance with the services that you provide. So say they want you for like a 12-hour shoot day, and you want to charge like $4,000, but that's too much for them. So then you can cut that 12-hour day to maybe an 8-hour day. So you're working 4 less hours, and then reduce your price accordingly to make the budget more feasible for them. So you're still getting paid the same like amount for your work. You're just doing less work and still delivering a product to the client. So that way you're not like just devaluing yourself for nothing, because like businesses don't just devalue themselves for nothing, man.
Yeah. But it's an expectation that the creatives almost should be devaluing. Like for some reason that is just the expectation that clients have, and budget's always going to be one of the hardest things about being a creative. Is justifying to yourself first, and then justifying to a client why you should be worth what you're worth. And then obviously COVID hits, and all of a sudden your rates, drop by half, by even a quarter, just because you want work, to be honest. And that's where I've sort of found myself right now, is that not that I'm taking on too many clients right now, but a few of the clients that I have taken on in the last month or so, my rates have been half what they usually would, just because to me the money isn't anywhere near as important as it probably is to a business that is still got the exact same amount of expenses, but they've only got half the restaurant customers, for example, or half the staff. So sometimes money isn't as important as you say. If you find a job that matches with your values, sometimes the money is much less important than just wanting to help them out.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I really don't have anything to say to that. It's a good point.
Working for free is obviously a hugely contested issue in the creative fields. And if you're on any sort of photography or videography or even graphic design and any sort of creative blog, there'll always be one article at least where there's 600 comments talking about should you or should you not do work for free. What are your thoughts? I mean, you've mentioned before that you have done free work before, but what sort of goes into that decision?
Yeah, I think I touched on it, and I have like a little note in my phone that actually talks about like specific things where it's like, okay, I have like a checklist, and I go over all the things, and it's like, and tells me like what the value of it is. I'll see how much I can remember off the top of my head, but like generally it's like, will this opportunity benefit my portfolio? Do I enjoy working with the client? Does this give me an opportunity to travel or like enjoy a new experience that I haven't done before? and I'm kind of looking for like those value adds like that. And if I can get those value adds where like I know it's gonna like this will expose me to new opportunities for clients. This will give me new life experiences. This will improve my portfolio. This is for a client whose name I would be proud to show in my portfolio. This is for a good cause. If
Hmm.
all of those things are there, then I have no problem working for free because that's still a mutually beneficial exchange
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
services. But
Yeah.
when it's not a mutually beneficial exchange, it's just some guy who just wants free work. But like I
Some
have
Instagram
nothing to
influencer
gain.
that'll promote it for
Yeah,
the audience awareness,
yeah, someone who like
for
bought fifty
exposure.
thousand followers for like $100 and thinks that they can
Mm.
use that to like get free work.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Yeah.
there's no value there for me, and I can see that you bought
Yeah.
I can see that your 2 comments on your last photo means you bought your 50,000 followers. So I don't need to, like, I don't need to do that job, and like,
Mm.
it's a case by case basis, but it
Yeah.
just like, is there a fair value exchange? That's what I'm usually looking for.
Cool. Here's a scenario for you then, Peter. If you had a project where money, equipment, time, etc., were no problem at all, and you could make a film about any story that you wanted to personally, and it was important to you, what would that be about?
Oh man, this is gonna be such a bad answer
It's gonna be
Go for it.
basketball.
Go for it.
because I don't actually like anything scripted.
Fair.
I don't shoot any scripted work.
Doesn't have to be
Um,
scripted. Just any
okay.
subject matter at all.
Okay, the only long form I do is documentary.
Mm.
So I would need to find a documentary about something. I think it'd be really awesome to just do like, look, in an ideal world, and this is like some nice. I know you guys probably want me to like some nice cause, and it's gonna be so humanitarian.
Nah,
Like,
don't worry about
stuff.
that.
But man,
No,
I would just
whatever
make
you
it.
want.
I would just make a documentary of my adventure traveling around the world, and I'd hit like every country and do like all the coolest shit possible, and just make it like this like crazy, super inspiring, awesome looking adventure, and make it into like a full doc like movie type of thing.
Color it orange and teal, obviously. Lots of like
Oh,
fancy
teal and orange,
transitions, zoom in, zoom
Well,
out.
that'd be the best
Everything's
part because
filmed
I
at
wouldn't need to
180
pay.
frames per second.
I wouldn't need to film a color, but like hire a colorist because I could just put an orange and teal LUT on the whole thing. It'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just one adjustment layer over the top of the 2 hour movie. And just orange and teal light.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. All the YouTubers
Perfect.
do it.
Crush the black, yeah, exactly. And then just obviously buy a transition pack. So then you don't have to spend time actually keyframing your own transitions and just
Yeah.
throw them on.
Hey,
throw it on there.
hey, if
Yeah.
money's not no, 100%.
Yeah, money's not on
No,
there.
definitely not. But you know, something that is related to travel is definitely something that I'd want to do since that's kind of how it started, and that would be my goal in the end. But yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't be anything like super meaningful. I'm more about just like the short content for the most part.
Yeah,
Fair
and that's why you're a perfect influencer.
Oh yeah, not yet. I'm definitely not an influencer with my 1,200 Instagram followers.
I mean, it's more than me, more than
More
Tom.
than me.
Yeah. If I haven't only picked up the camera 2 years ago, yeah, you're doing all right.
Yeah, give me
definitely.
10 years. We'll see where we're at.
So, what are you finding the hardest thing to do in your day-to-day work then? What's the challenge for you?
I guess the biggest challenge now is like, well, obviously I'm adapting to a new form of work, but I have more barriers to my creativity, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's like a bad thing, and I'm not saying I dislike the people I work with because I really like all the people I work with. But like, it's not like I'm just working like directly with the client now and figuring out their needs. But now I'm working within the agency and compromising on my creative with the agency and their vision and aligning to their branding.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also compromising on creative with the client and their vision and aligning to their branding. So it's just more steps between the finished product that I would like to see and the finished product that becomes a reality. So I'd say adapting to that and compromising more with other people is an adjustment, but I think it's a valuable skill. So I want to make sure that I account for that and I get better at it.
And
Yeah,
obviously,
definitely.
there is a huge benefit into working with an agency as opposed to just doing it all yourself, right? So, where you compromise is maybe a con having to be working with an agency. Obviously, the pro is getting access to ideally a greater audience of potential customers and having the support and the business skills of everyone else that you work with too.
Oh yeah, 100%. Not to mention the fact that when you're with an agency, you're solely focused on your job. Like I'm a videographer, so I go to the agency and I do videography. The sales guy does sales, the copywriters write stuff, and like you just do your job. But as you guys know, when you're freelancing, like you
Good at
are
all.
everything. Like you're
Mm.
invoicing, you're like reaching out to clients, you're doing sales, you're doing marketing. Like it's all you, and then you need to pile on your job, making videos or taking photos or graphic design or whatever else it is on top of all that.
Mm.
And then plus
Yeah,
your own
definitely.
promotion on the side of that,
Yeah,
like your own
exactly.
personal stuff too. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe the freelance business grows big enough to make it into an agency, but we'll see, man. That's in
Let's see.
time.
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely. In time.
What's your creative process then when you're thinking of ideas for videos and treatments and all that kind of stuff? Do you go away and look at things, or do you just have things pop up in your head? What's your process?
Yeah, I pretty much only watch YouTube. Like
Okay.
I barely watch any TV. It's just like strictly like YouTube stuff. So like
Mm.
I'll like watch a lot of YouTube videos for inspiration, and the people who I see making content online inspire me a lot, and I'll draw
Mm.
ideas from that. And as I'm scrolling through Instagram, I have like a bunch of like how you can save a post on Instagram.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have like a bunch of subcategories in all my saves. So whenever I see a post I like, I save it and I put it into a relevant subcategory, like product photography, sports, VFX, whatever it's going to be,
Mhm.
so that I can have that and look back on it for inspiration for later projects. And I always like drawing little pieces from work that I see around and incorporating those elements into my work, but like in a new creative way. So I'm not just like stealing it exactly.
Mhm.
But usually the final product I make ends up being a mashup of a bunch of stuff I've seen before, plus
Yep.
like a couple random things that I just like stumbled upon.
Yeah,
Nice.
but that is creativity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
it's all about you don't just steal from one person, you steal from everyone, and that's how you be original.
yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
100%. People
Yeah.
say it, and
Yeah.
it's like this old like it's like this old like saying that like stealing is art or whatever the fuck it
Yeah.
is. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like a good
We're not great
artist
with quotes
steals
either,
or
man.
something
I
like
just
that.
make them up. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not good with quotes and stuff. This is why I had so much trouble introing the podcast. But
And do you storyboard stuff before you shoot?
you know what? I actually don't storyboard that much.
Yeah.
Like I can't draw for my life.
Hmm.
So I usually make like really detailed shot lists where
Yeah.
I'll make like point form and it'll be like the frame, so like close up, medium shot, wide shot, whatever it is, description of the movement. Like I basically write out exactly what the shot is going to be, like in
Mm.
text, and then I do that for every shot and put it in order. And then I take those and I put little numbers beside them, sequencing them on the most logical way to shoot everything in a day. And then I just breeze through it that way. Obviously, if I'm working on a project with like a lot of people where other people need to be able to understand the vision, then I will take the time to storyboard it. But like if it's basically like me and maybe like one other person in the camera department, then I'm not gonna like stress over making a big storyboard.
Hmm.
And treatments for clients, obviously. I want to like get pictures and like find visual inspiration
Yeah.
to show a client what I'm talking about so that they can understand, because they're not gonna understand my scribbly text. So I'll make treatments look good. But as far as storyboarding, that's more of an internal thing for me, and I just make it so that I can get the shots I need.
Treatments is definitely
Sure.
the area that I need to focus most on, I think, in the next couple of months as I look to take this freelancing business, a bit more professional.
Mhm.
And I guess for people who don't know what a treatment is basically like a collection of images, collection of photos, even video samples that you can gather from stock footage or across the internet where you sort of like represent what vision you have for your product in your head through something that's already been produced, and so that you can communicate to the client exactly what it is you think you're going to be doing. And it's not something I'm very good at, and I don't storyboard, so I just sort of like make it all up on the spot. So there's a big step from making it all up on the spot to actually being professional enough in a creative sense to create a treatment and then make a finished product that's almost been agreed before we even turn the camera on.
Mhm. And that's exactly what a treatment is. That was a great explanation. And like the treatment is basically a contract for what you're expected to provide.
Yeah.
So like you need to be really careful with what you deliver in treatment, because if you make a treatment that says you're gonna have a Lamborghini on set, and then your video doesn't have a Lamborghini, then you didn't live up to the contract you provided, and the client is probably not gonna pay you what they're supposed to pay you, because like, you literally didn't deliver what you promised. So like the stuff that's in that treatment, like man, it's really important to make sure that you got that like locked and dialed, and like you gotta think like a producer when you're making a treatment,
Mm.
because like everything needs to be actually deliverable, because that's your visual contract.
Yeah.
Is there something
That's
you're
another
looking
top
to?
tip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is there something you're looking to work on in your own work over the next couple of months?
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff I do doesn't involve treatments. It's a lot of like event based work, and for an
Yeah.
event based work, for event stuff, I'm not, or even sports, like in any of that, I'm not doing a treatment, because the stuff just kind of happens in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and like the players do what they do, or I don't know, the band like plays their show, and then you need to find a creative way to make that experience look cool and make it something that the people who are there can relive and feel the same emotions they felt at that time. But when I'm doing commercial work, that's more when the treatments come out, and that's when you want to find examples that can show what you're going to do. And like, you approach it in an artistic way, but you also approach it in a logical, feasible way, and thinking about money and thinking about the budget and what can you actually do.
Yeah, and I think that's
Oh,
the reason that's becoming important for me is that events and sports aren't happening like they used to. And for you as well, like that was my specialty basically before COVID hit. But now
Mm-hmm.
commercial work is becoming way more important because businesses are realizing they should actually probably put in some marketing now that they're open again and try to get as many customers as they possibly can. Um, so it's all about pivoting, right? And that's a
Absolutely.
pro or a con
mm,
depending on how you think about change.
how you
Well,
look
well,
at it.
I think it's fine. Like, I think it's a good thing. The commercial work has definitely picked up a little bit on my end. I'm still doing a lot of sports on like an individual basis, so I'm filming individual workouts for stuff to promote activities like that, where we can just get only a couple people in the room. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, like to be able to like shoot a talking headshot with someone, like you can do that with two people, or film a product video. Like I filmed a product video for Perrier alone in my bedroom, and
Mm.
put that out there. I entered in. I'll say the story. So I filmed this.
Yes.
I was trying to not say a story because it's kind of long, but like we're sitting here and like we're already talking.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. Yeah, I got.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So start of quarantine, I just kind of wanted to like get some product videos under my belt. So I ended up filming a commercial, like a spec commercial for like a Perrier, like Perrier lemon water or whatever it was, because they were at the dollar store 3 for $1. So I'm like, oh, this is a perfect product to film.
Obviously, yeah. That's where all
good.
great inspiration comes from, the dollar store.
100%. So I picked up like some Bristol board and like a little Lazy Susan and whatever else, and I filmed the thing in my room. There's a YouTube video on it. Shameless plug. But
Hmm.
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
this video, I entered this video into a contest that this big YouTuber Daniel Schiffer was having, and like apparently hundreds of people entered this contest with like the little B-roll clips or whatever it was, and my video made the top 20.
Nice.
And
Sick.
yeah, so I didn't end up winning because it was a fan vote type of thing, and like they all wanted to see like the YouTube transitions and like the crazy flashy stuff, and I shot my whole thing on a tripod and made it look really clean and commercial. So it didn't go over well with the audience, but I repurposed that later to pitch the agency that I'm working for now, and that was the video that sold them on hiring me.
Nice.
That's great.
So that's like
That's
a
good.
so that's like a really good example of how like spec work and like in the field that you want to work in can get you that job, because like I never really done a product video before,
Mm.
but I did one because I knew that that might be like a move going into quarantine, these product videos and this commercial stuff. And then my first one happened to take off and get a good result from people and got some exposure, and bam, job.
That's good.
Nice.
That is good.
And that's the key difference between Peter and I, Tom, is that Peter made productive videos
Yeah.
for a portfolio, whereas I made
Yep.
two quite funny YouTube videos that
Yeah.
captured the audience's excitement. Where I got half naked on camera and pretended to be Instagram models. Yeah.
Okay, that is
Yeah.
a much better video than what I did. Why did I not think of that?
I mean, I am not showing that to future clients, however, but it's on there. It's on the internet forever now, and it's something to be
Forever,
proud of when I show my kids in 20 years.
yeah. Link
Look
in
at
the
how good I
description.
looked.
Yeah, please link in the description. If you can just,
Yeah.
I know you post guests like all the guest links on your website. If you can just remove my links and link that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll say Peter's portfolio, and I'll just link it to my
It's
videos
just a video.
instead.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
support it.
Yeah, nice.
So what's your favourite thing to shoot, Peter? Or do you just enjoy everything? You said like basketball and things like that. Do you enjoy that because you played basketball? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my favorite thing for sure to shoot is basketball.
Yeah.
Like if I shoot basketball maybe every day for like 3 weeks, maybe that'll change. But I like changing it up every once in a while. But I played basketball like all through high school, and I'm only 5'11" right now, so I never grew, which is why I'm not playing basketball anymore.
But you can't tell on Skype, everyone's the same height, so
Yeah, let's get
Yeah,
everyone the same
that's
height.
true.
That's why I like this so much.
yeah.
Yeah, those same people who I played for are the people who hired me for the first time to
Oh,
film my
sweet.
first basketball videos.
Nice.
And I did a good job, and that kept going. And it's something that I understand and I've been familiar with, and I really enjoy it. So whenever I can, I love to film that stuff. Sports, or at least basketball, isn't always necessarily the highest paying at the level that I'm
Mm.
filming at.
Yeah.
And the opportunities to film sports in Canada are nowhere near the US, where every Division One school has a full budget to hire full-time content creators. Whereas in Canada, it's like students who are like shooting content for their local university.
Mhm.
but I still like it, and whenever I can do that stuff, I always like to do it.
Yeah. And that's probably something where the money doesn't mean as much as just enjoying the process and enjoying the content.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely don't charge my sports clients as much money as I charge my commercial clients. Like that's for sure. The budget's not always there, and realistically, I don't need that much manpower. It can just be me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sometimes that's even better too, the whole run and gun style, where if you're at a sporting event, like if we're trying to set it up with half a dozen size crew, then you'd actually probably get worse shots than if it's just you running around and you can be nimble and quick.
Exactly.
Mm.
You guys have all done event work, I'm sure, so you know that.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
so sporadic.
Okay.
You kind of need to be running gun so you can just like react to whatever happens in front of you.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Do you have any advice for people who maybe have been thinking about getting into photography or videography, but are worried about being able to do it or not having the right gear? What I like about your story is that you just got a GoPro, right? You didn't have like the most fancy high-end camera or anything like that. Just pick something up and start creating things. So what would your advice be to people?
Yeah, man, for real. Just whatever you have, anything that can record multiple frames in a row that look like a video, just just take it and make something. Get creative. I shot on a GoPro 4 for like a whole year,
Mm.
and like I didn't make anything that was like super super amazing, but I learned so much. And the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
thing you do isn't going to be good, but whatever you make, just put it out into the world and let everyone see it. And that'll hold you accountable and they'll give you good feedback. Some people might not be so nice, but that's okay because it'll like just putting stuff out there and getting that honest criticism that you need is gonna make you better. So just go for it and don't worry about what people say.
I mean, that's just good advice for life. Just stop caring what
Yeah.
other people think
Just
as
in
much
general.
and just do it.
Yeah, 100%.
And actually edit the videos. The easy bit
Yeah,
is recording
Yeah.
it. The hard
Yeah.
bit is actually editing it. Yeah,
oh, please, for the love of God, just start enjoying the editing process. Otherwise, this isn't going to be for you.
definitely not.
Mm. Yeah,
Or just
that's
like
my issue.
stick to
Like, I'm
ruts.
not a huge, I'm not a huge lover of editing, to be honest. But it's something that I'm working on. As I get more and more exposed to it,
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
if you don't love
Yeah,
editing, get into photography because
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
photography is super
Yeah,
quick to
that's me.
edit.
Yeah.
If you do
Yeah.
love editing, get into video because you can sit there for days and days working on a shot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of your like the 1 minute Instagram videos of the basketball dude, and then you did that VFX
Mm.
breakdown where it took you hours and hours and hours for a 1 minute clip on Instagram.
Oh,
It
oh
looks
yeah,
sick, like little like
Yeah, it
Super
looks
Saiyan
great.
Dragon Ball Z like animations, and he's got like things are blurred out, and he's changed the color. He's got jersey color swaps and all sorts of things. Like it looks sick, but when you did the
Yeah.
breakdown, I was like, yeah, that's a lot of hours in After Effects.
yeah. I did like a 25 minute video on. I think it was no, it wasn't 25 minutes. It was like a 20-minute video on YouTube though, going over how I did one shot that's like 8 seconds long, and there was
Mm.
like three different track. Like I had to track three different objects in the shot, and like
Yeah.
all this masking and like for like 8 seconds, and no one even thinks about it. They're just like, oh, it just happened, it's fine.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
sick.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the result's worth it.
Yeah, and but that
Definitely.
it's the details that make the difference between a beginner and someone who's somewhat more professional, right? Like
Mm.
putting
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the effort to mask it out like when you've put this fancy animation on the basketball but it goes behind the basketball net, like actually having a mask there so it looks like it's behind the net as opposed to in front of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
while you
I can
say
see
no
that. I
one
can see that
like
you've watched my YouTube videos.
yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm doing some research
Yes.
into my clients, mate.
Doing the research.
But like a beginner wouldn't put in the effort to mask that out.
Mhm.
But and someone watching it, they probably don't notice that you have done it, but they most definitely do notice when you don't do it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like good sound design, man. Like
Yeah.
if you don't do sound design, everyone's like, why does it feel so empty? There's no life to this. But when you do it,
Mm.
it's just like, oh, this is cool. But no
Yeah.
one thinks about
Yeah.
the fact that you
But
did
it takes 3 extra days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing, actually. Like, almost. Like, if you don't have good sound, that can be like an instant turn off for people. And people are like, I forget it. You know what I mean? So it is hugely important. Peter, did you say did you say in the road video that you went back to university to study videography? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to after I finished business school, I immediately went to George Brown College and I did 1 year in their video production program, and I love that
Mm.
program. They didn't
Yeah.
have the most industry connections yet because it's a new program, but the actual like knowledge that I gained from going to college was
Yeah.
so good. I think college is such a and for anyone who's listening and not in Canada, college for us is more like hands-on practical experience. The university is more theoretical. So the experience that I got from going to a college to study video for 1 year, even though I didn't even get the degree, and the connections that I made from that were so valuable, and that really set me up to have a good career going forward, I guess, and start building out what I'm building now. And
Yeah.
now I'm at Ryerson University, and I'm also studying media. Whether I continue studying media in the fall is to be determined, because like I got a full time job, so like
Yeah, you've got the end result.
so like, I kind of got what I wanted already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. But
See how it's going.
like even just being there, that opened up so many doors, and I wouldn't have the job I have now if I didn't go there and make the connections that I made, and I wouldn't have
Exactly.
built that portfolio. So yeah, man, like I know not everyone can afford to go to school for this stuff, and you don't need to go to school for this stuff to be successful. But
Yeah.
if you can, I think that being in a room with people who are like-minded is a great opportunity.
Yeah,
How
man, that's good.
how did you feel about your business education? So we did a whole podcast on bullshit jobs, and we've done another episode on the bullshit nature of most education, especially university, where I feel like I did 2.5 years of a dual business degree, where at the end of it, I probably didn't get as much out of it as I probably have paid for it. Um, yeah, what was your thoughts on your whole education upbringing?
Oh, I can go into man. I'm happy you got. We can go another hour on education.
Hit me, yeah. Give us a
Take
short
it,
version.
take it away.
So
Take it away.
look, the amount of practical knowledge I gained from business school is near zero in
Yeah,
terms of like the things that they taught you in the classroom.
yeah,
The knowledge that you infer from the activities you do and from being around that environment and this like the way that that changes your psyche is one thing, and you take that away and then you always look at things from that perspective. But like there's so much stuff that's just like, why do I care about these math equations unless I'm gonna value stocks for a living, which almost nobody does because it's all algorithms anyways. I do not need to know this.
hmm
And like even in university for media, man, like college is a different experience, and I talk to that because college is very hands-on and you learn practical stuff. But like my experience in studying media in university, man, I have learned no skills from studying media in university, and I have not gained one project from my university that I would be proud to show in my portfolio. But being there gave me the opportunity to take on projects in my extracurriculars and meet the people who I needed to know to get projects that build me up. So if you're going to university for connections and it's something you're passionate about and you can show that you already have some skill, then going to university is worth it. But like, don't go to university expecting to learn a whole bunch of stuff. And if you don't have any skills in that field and you're not working to build them, then it's less likely that people are going to reach out to you for opportunities at university because they want to reach out to people who they know can get the job done. So don't go to university and think that you're just going to know something by going to university, because it's the work that you do that teaches you,
Yeah.
not anything in the classroom, because the classroom covers very, very basic stuff and not the stuff that you need all the time to work in the industry.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting. It's so interesting doing this podcast and speaking to people, because that's very common thread about education. It's very obvious. It's glaringly obvious when you speak to everyone. So you think it's more about the extracurricular, the groups that you get involved with, the people that you meet, the like-minded people, and the connections that you make that it makes it worth it in the end.
Oh, absolutely. Because like when those people graduate, they're gonna graduate into positions like us, where, like I graduate and I go work for a digital marketing agency, and someone else graduates and goes works for like a broadcast network, right? And like someone else graduates and starts their own production company, and now you have all these connections in the industry from people you went to school with, and you all know each other, and you're all close, and you're all referring each other for work and bouncing projects off of each other, and you form like this little network in your city, and like that's so valuable. It's so much better than just being in it alone. Not saying that you're going to be alone if you don't go to university, because there's other ways to meet people. Um, but yeah, man, the class.
Yeah, there has to be a different way, right? There has to be
Traditional
a better way.
education, man. That's not it.
No, we agree as well.
I've
Like
heard that before.
it's wild, right? Like there has to be a better way to do this, where you don't have to go through all the bullshit of the classes, where you're not really learning anything, but still come out of it with the connections and the opportunities that university and college can provide. But it's only through those extracurricular activities. So can you not just do them without paying 70 grand for a university degree and a piece of
Well,
paper? You know, like that.
I didn't pay 70 grand in Canada.
Yeah, yeah, true.
But yeah, like even man, like in some fields, like if I was in business and like for you accounting, you need your degree, and if I was gonna go work for a bank, I always need my degree.
Yeah.
Man, in a creative field, you don't need a degree to work. No one's ever asked to see my degree,
Mm.
That's
and
good because
like
I don't have one either.
Yeah.
no, you don't have it.
I don't have a degree in media or anything. No.
Oh no, not media, but I mean like accounting. Like if you didn't have
Oh
your,
yeah, but that's the
I was
thing
like
that
what?
like
You worked as an accountant without a degree?
no, but like that's the thing. I think even that's changing these days. Is that if you can prove a passion and an ability that you've developed on your own, that's becoming more and more important now. You know, sometimes more important than having a piece of paper that said I've gone to university for a lot of jobs now,
Mm.
mainly in countries like America. You know, like Elon Musk and startups now are hiring people that are programmers or are analysts or something just because they have a passion for that type of work. You don't have to
Hmm.
prove that you've spent a whole bunch of money just sat through university for 3 to 5 years and then all of a sudden somehow they just expect you to be more qualified than you were going into it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's great that the industry has kind of taken that turn to the point where people are now looking for more practical skills and practical knowledge in a play and like in jobs where they can easily see it.
Yeah.
There's some jobs where you can't tell right away and it's hard to show a body of work, but in jobs where you can show a body of work that proves you're capable, I love that employers like Shopify and Tesla are starting to hire people just based on those skills.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to bring up travel because that's something that you talk about in the road video and something that you've talked about today. And it almost travel and videography kind of came together for you, right? So is travel a big part of your life? What do you think the benefits of it are? How did your year in Australia come about? If you'd like to speak to us about that.
Yeah, I would love to. So
Yeah.
travel's, I'm sure for you guys it is as well, but travel's a huge part of my life.
Mm.
From a young age, my parents invested a lot of their disposable income into traveling so that my brother and I could gain a more well-rounded perspective on
Mm.
things. And I really feel like that helped me just be like a more empathetic person. So I caught the travel bug real young because of that. So
Yeah, definitely.
once I was of age, I started going around to places myself, and I've done the whole backpacking thing, and I've gone
Mm-hmm.
with friends, and I got family trips, solo trips, trips with friends. I just like love seeing new places in the world, and I think that everywhere you go, there's an opportunity to learn something. So I try to get out as much as I can. And you talked obviously not right now with COVID. You talked about Australia though,
Yeah.
and well, that was very simple. I hated the university I was at. I've already said that.
Mm.
Um, and I just kind of wanted a reason to leave. So they offered an exchange program. So I'm like, all right, I'm going somewhere really far for a whole year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
And the continent I hadn't been to at that time was like Oceania, Australia. I'd never been out in that part of the world. So I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, well, I'm going to Australia. And I just picked a city and I went for it. And I got lucky. I actually knew a couple people in Melbourne. But yeah, just started going around Australia and it was super cool. And I got exactly the getaway that I was looking for.
That's
Nice.
awesome. Yeah.
That's good.
And as you say, like it teaches you important skills. It's it's the
Definitely.
extracurricular activity. It
Mhm.
you create networks, you learn important skills, things you can't get sometimes from just staying comfortable in your little tiny area where you grew up and you know everyone and you know everything.
Mm.
You need to find yourself in that position where you're at a bus station, but there's no more buses to get you to where you need to go, and you don't have a hostel booked, and you don't know what to eat, and you can't speak the language. Like you need those sort of experiences for personal growth.
This sounds like a
Yeah.
very particular situation to you. And I know you like traveling a lot since you are Australian and over here. But do you want to get into that?
Yeah. It's happened a few times, but
Yeah, a
I
few
backpacked
times.
through South America, which I think I've discussed on the podcast before. But yeah, there's one particular example where I had just said goodbye to the friend that I was traveling with for the first 3 weeks in South America, and I'd
Mm.
caught an overnight bus to this little tiny place called Salta in the middle of Argentina, and I didn't speak Spanish at this point. I was making my way to Bolivia where I was planning on doing Spanish school for a couple of weeks, but I barely spoke any Spanish, and I was in this tiny little town, and in the entirety of the town, what I could figure out by using Google Translate is that only two people could speak broken English, and one was the daughter of someone who ran a museum that I just happened to walk to, and she recognized I was speaking English, and so her daughter came out, and she could kind of speak very broken English. She was maybe like 13 or something, so very young. And the other one was one travel agent, like travel advisor, I guess, but they weren't in town that day. And I had rocked up at the bus station at 4 a.m. in the morning, I think, from this overnight bus, expecting to get onto a different bus that left at 8 a.m. But I couldn't get onto that bus without having bought a ticket. And in Argentina, you have to have bought a ticket online and then printed it out physically. You need the physical printout ticket. And obviously, I didn't have a printer with me because I was backpacking through South America. So I was hoping to go to a hostel. Sorry, no, I sort of arrived the night before at 4 p.m. I was hoping to go to a hostel, and then I was assuming they would have a printer, and it was all going to work out fine. But all the hostels in this little tiny town didn't have receptions. You had to also book online, and of course, you can't book online 24 hours within the 24 hours before you're supposed to stay there. So then I ended up like having to find a hotel, and of course, there's only like 3 hotels, and they're all very expensive. And like none of them were open 24 hours booking before you rock up too, because who rocks up to a small town in the middle of Argentina without booking accommodation? Me.
This guy.
Yeah. And obviously I can't call anyone because I don't have a phone number that works in South America and I don't speak the language. So yeah, I ended up being okay. It ended up being, I ended up getting to the bus station at 6 a.m. the next morning as soon as they opened and talking to this travel advisor using Google Translate on my phone that thankfully had battery. And she said the printer was broken, and I was like, "Of course it is. Like, what do I do now?" And she was like, "Well, office store opens at 8 a.m. Go buy me ink for my printer." And of course, I go to the office store, it's not working, and I come back and a different travel agent's there, and it ended up being a language barrier where the printer wasn't broken, the printer just couldn't start until 8 a.m. for some reason. But she ended up
The printer
being
was
able
off the clock.
I know.
Yeah.
Somehow the printer was off the clock because that makes sense. But basically, I ended up convincing her to let me come into her little office and log into my Google. And then obviously Google was like, this is an unrecognized device. Like, you need to get a notification security code so you can log in. Oh, wild. But I ended up getting the security code, logging in, and then printing it out myself. And then I like ran to the bus and made it on with like 1 minute to spare. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It all works out in the end.
It all worked out in the end. But, you know, like, yeah, it's just that's one
In
of
the
many
moment,
travel
it's panicky.
stories. Yeah.
You
where I
know,
grew
the thing that I'm
personally.
taking away from that story the most is that you are so disrespectful to that printer. You realize that printers need downtime too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know, right?
You can't
Yeah.
overwork your printer. It's just so.
Yeah. But yeah, like when someone's like speaking to you in a different language and they're saying the printer doesn't work until 8 a.m. in the morning,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's right there.
Yeah.
Like it's just
No,
there.
it's
Like, I know
come
it
on.
does.
I was like, what do you
It's
mean the printer
on.
doesn't
I
work
can
until
see
8
the
a.m.?
light.
The printer doesn't need to sleep. Stop.
Yeah. And I was like,
Print
is
might
it
take
ink?
hours.
Is it paper? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, yeah, it's not. But,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I'm happy you're still here. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's character building, and
It
that's
is
what
character
travel
building.
is,
Yeah.
right? And it's problem solving, which we've also spoken about today. It's just like solving out these little problems of how you get to A to B, how you get a roof over your head. So I like landed in Thailand with a mate once, and we had nothing booked, and it was like monsoon weather. There was like water flowing down the streets. We just looked at each other. We had nowhere booked or anything. We just looked at each other like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? But you sort it out. It's all problem solving and like talking to people and all that kind of stuff. So travel is definitely important and character building for everyone, I reckon.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I was say, I don't know how much time we have, but I got stuck on a shrimp fishing boat in Cambodia during a thunderstorm once.
Oh yeah?
And I can talk about
Do
that.
tell.
Yeah. So basically, I was on this like really small southern island in Cambodia, kind of like a little getaway type of thing. And I met these other travelers there. So there was these 3 girls. One was American, one was like Swedish or Finnish or something, and the other one I just don't remember.
All the same.
But but basically, these girls got offered by the person who was running their little accommodation to like come on like a shrimp fishing thing. So I was like, oh cool. So like, they were like, oh cool, when are you guys leaving? Like, oh, we're going with him and his buddies like tonight. And I'm like, so you 3 girls are getting on a boat with a bunch of Cambodian men you don't know and going shrimp fishing in the middle of the night.
Right.
Can I come with you?
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah. That sounds great.
So what was that like?
So we went out because like I didn't want these girls to like get raped or something. So I was like, okay, well, I'm coming along when they offered, and they were like cool actually. It was like fine. So like we started shrimp fishing, but then all of a sudden this storm rolls in and the tide drops super quickly. So like we all tried to like get the boat going super fast and get out of there with whatever shrimp we had, and Like we could not. We were stuck in the sand. So then we tried walking back to shore, but one of the girls saw like a poisonous snake as she was walking with one of the Cambodian guys, and they saw a poisonous snake. So the girl like flipped, and the Cambodian guy like fought it off her. And then we all like went back to the boat, and like
Well,
and then this storm rolls in, and we're stuck in this boat, huddled around each other like this, like 7 of us, with like life jackets around us to like kind of keep us dry, and just huddled like that till like 4 in the morning. Well, and occasionally like the Cambodian guys, like the locals, would pop out and go fish for some shrimp, and and then like a couple times we got in the water and started pushing, and we at like around 4 a.m. we pushed ourselves out, and we were after like 6-7 hours we got back to the island. The Cambodian guys had caught a full kilo of shrimp at this point.
It's had
it
a
was
great time.
productive.
Yeah, yeah. So like,
Yeah, it
so
was productive, eh?
yeah, they were productive. I wasn't, but well, yeah, we got back and we ate a full kilo of shrimp and we all passed out.
There you go.
And our boat didn't capsize or flood. So that was sweet.
And everyone made it back okay.
Everyone made it back.
With a story to tell.
Everyone made it back
Yeah.
with a story to tell. Yeah.
Exactly. That's great. That's awesome.
Not related to videography at all.
Not at all. No, I think we'll have to do a whole podcast episode on funny travel stories because I've got a few. Weirdly, snakes are like a big part of life. You know, I hate snakes. I really hate snakes. So I think
Okay,
as being
maybe-
Australian, you have to. But god damn, snakes are bad, right?
I think snakes are really a
I
big part
love
of life as an
snakes.
Australian, not as a Canadian.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, okay. We'll add that to the list. Funny travel stories, future podcast episode. We'll get you back on, Pete, too. I'm sure you'll have plenty.
Oh, 100%. I feel like I could go for hours with you guys, but people don't want to listen to that for hours. So
Well, Pete, I mean, not gonna lie, I've learned a heck of a lot from you, which I knew I would, which is why we invited you onto the podcast. And for someone I met literally 2 months ago, this is great.
yeah, well, thanks, guys. I feel
been
like I've
awesome.
got to know both of you a lot more, and I was super stoked on this. I hope other people learned a little something from this as well.
I'm
Hope
sure
so,
they
yeah.
will. There's certain golden nuggets of information in there that will highlight to people for sure. Pete, tell people where they can find you on all your socials.
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's instagram.com/PSarellas. That's PSARELLAS. But you can also just search Peter SAR and I'll come up. YouTube is youtube.com/Peter Sarellas is my name. But again, just search Peter SAR, I'll come up. And my website is petersarellas.com. Keeping it real easy.
I was gonna say real easy. That's it, yeah. And we'll obviously link all of this in the show notes, and you've got a little guest section on our website and stuff as well. So
Yeah, thanks, guys.
if anyone has any questions for Peter at all, you can find his details online, as he just said, or
Yeah,
you can send
please.
us an
My
email.
my DMs are an open thing. Like, just shoot me a message and we can chat. And just tell them that Tom and Stu sent you guys, and
Yeah.
I'll make sure to get back to you.
And I DM him all the time with questions, so he's definitely used to.
Yeah.
There's no stupid
Well-
questions at all, just stupid
Well-
people,
Used to
right? Yeah.
Editing questions.
Yeah, lots of
Yeah,
editing
well-
questions actually
Yeah,
from
yeah.
his recent videos.
For real, yeah, for real. Editing questions. Like, hit me up if you have ideas for videos that you want to see out of me. Like, do message me because I never know what to do, and then someone gives me an idea, and I'm like, oh, I should probably make a video on that.
For sure.
But yeah,
Alright.
go subscribe. Road to 1 million.
Yeah. Like and subscribe, everyone. Yeah.
I say I have
And-
like 250 subscribers.
yeah. I mean, same. That's fine. Thanks, Mum. And everyone, send us an email, hi@tomstewartnew.com. You can like us at tomstewartnew on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you, Peter, for joining us today. And we'll
Thank
have
you very much.
another awesome guest for you all. Hopefully next week, maybe the week after. We'll see. I'm
Very
I'm
soon,
confident
either
of
way.
it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right.
Cool.
All right.
Did it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.